actually Rob Gillinger with my son Noah. We're doing a few episodes before he heads back to Germany tomorrow. We did the few that I came up with. My wife, I was asking her, I needed one more subject, and hers was, as a non-football, non-soccer fan, what can we do in the U.S. to build that up?
Okay, I think I gotta. So, I know people watch. A lot of people that watch the World Cup. This was the first World Cup they ever watched, right?
Right.
And so what I want people to go to do, right? You find that one player that you like. You have one player, or even it's not from your nation. You watch him play. You watch the highlight. Watch a clip of him, right? You get hooked. You watch it, and you watch what team he plays, and you find the league he plays in, right?
Yeah.
And you watch one of his games. Then you might see another player he plays against or plays with, and you follow him. You watch his highlights. You watch him play. You watch that team play. They've played another team. You watch him play for his country, nation, whatever. Then you find another player on another team. See that player? Then you find a team you like you watch them, and then now you're hooked.
Yeah. Well, I remember when he was younger, and I think this is a big catch. Like when I coached him in rec, until he was 8, and then I just realized that I taught him everything I could. He wanted to get better. He needed to get into a more professional environment, so he found a local academy and did that. But I remember telling him, it's like, there's nothing like watching. As one of the best decisions as a parent I made was that we're going to watch a lot of this sport, because that's how you learn. You watch these professionals that are at the top of their game, and you start learning, as a midfielder, what does this player do and how do they do it? I had a good friend of mine who's from the Netherlands tell me, if they want to be a midfielder, pick a midfielder and watch that player. Don't watch the game, not that you're watching the game, but watch that specific player. If that's the position they want to play, whether it's defender, striker, goalie. It's easy with the goalie, you know where the goalie's going to be, but watch the midfielder is a good example, because they can be almost anywhere. Mm-hmm. Where are they? When the ball's here, where's your player? Where's the player that you're watching that plays your position? Mm-hmm. And what are they planning on doing and everything else? But back to it is like, Premier League was the big one at the time when he was that age that we could watch on TV. So I was like, okay, what team are we going to follow? And we still have a little bit of an argument over the team we picked. We picked Manchester City. We picked Manchester City. He keeps trying to get out on that, but the big thing with that is now you have a rooting interest. And we know that here, because if you're an American football fan, a basketball fan, a baseball fan, a hockey fan, you have a team, and it makes it different when you watch a game. Again, it's not that you don't watch games that your team is in, but having that team you can follow, it's just a different level of and again, I think in almost every way, soccer, the real football, has become the 3rd most popular sport in this country. What hurts it a little bit is because the interests are divided over different leagues. Mm-hmm. If you're watching American football, it's NFL. It's pretty much only played in the U.S., a little bit in Canada, but basically it's played in the U.S. So that's our team. There's nothing else to watch. That's and obviously college and high school and stuff. Basketball is the NBA. There's leagues in other countries, but the NBA is the top league in the world. So right here we have the top leagues in the world for both of those sports are right here in the U.S. And because we're in the U.S., you've grown up with some interest in a team for whatever reason. I'm not sure. He ended up. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, so that's how I became a Sixers fan. I'm not really sure, because he grew up in the South, how he became a Sixers fan. It wasn't really me pushing it on him. He came to that on his own. But you have that team that you're following, and it makes a difference. Baseball, which used to be the America's pastime, that's definitely football now, is the numbers are going down. They play the games so late into the night, you don't know when they're going to end, because a baseball game can go on for hours and hours and hours. So the kids got to go to bed for school, and you're not going to let, most of the time you're not going to let your kids stay up till 12 or 1 o'clock, and especially if your team isn't the one in the World Series. So, but with the real football, with soccer, you have a big group of U.S. fans watching the Mexican League. You have a decent amount watching MLS, our American league. But you also have a huge contingent. I watch early. I wake up every Saturday, Sunday morning, and I watch typically 1 to 3 games, depending on my schedule, whether it includes Manchester City or not. Then you also have La Liga for, back when Messi was there, Barcelona and Real Madrid, which are still the 2 biggest clubs in the world from fan base. And you have ones that won't like Bayern Munich and Dortmund and Schalke and all these others. And then you have, a little lesser, but you have Serie A in Italy, and you have the French league now, especially now that you have Messi and Mbappe and Neymar and PSG. Yeah, so you have all these different leagues that are getting viewers and watching it, whether it's online or whether it's on TV or whatever. So you start, but if you added all those viewers together, it's going to vastly go above baseball. And I think most of that, you're starting to see that. But if you're going to build it up, I think the World Cup was great because you have those first time viewers. And how do you take those first time viewers and turn them into fans?
Now they're getting interested because the World Cup's being hosted next year.
Yeah.
They're here, and the best thing is none of these countries have to build stadiums.
Oh, they've already announced, and now every stadium that's been used in the Canada, U.S., Mexico World Cup in 4 years are existing stadiums. There's the one in Mexico, and if you haven't seen the picture, it's a great picture. It's like this is the stadium to watch because there's one view. Like if you're sitting on one side of the stadium, you not only can watch the game, but you got this beautiful view of mountains. I think it's Monterey, and it's just gorgeous. And then there's one in Canada. I don't know if they were joking about it, but the field currently is all red, and so like imagine watching a World Cup game on all red. Again, that's turf, but and for the World Cup they'll have grass on those fields. But it's how do we capture that? And then the excitement of the next 4 years, where it looks like we're going to end up hosting the Copa America, which is typically held in South America, but every once in a while they do move it outside of South America.
And it's good. Canada and Mexico are going to be able to join in as well as the US.
So
it's very good for CONCACAF to develop as well.
So but I saw that, like I said, in the '94 World Cup, when we had it here, it was a huge, you started seeing, and I think you had the women's team right after that coming up and then winning, but you had that huge excitement and then huge just, hey, how does this work? And how do we build on that? And I think knowledge is key. Like so that's where I said, find a team that you want to watch, that you can become a fan of, and buy their jersey and get the hat and whatever, so that you can watch these games and say, oh wow, this is And from a scheduling standpoint, for me, the one thing I like is when I watch a Premier League game and it says it's starting at 9 a.m. my time, I know at 11 I'm going to be done. It's not going to be 11:30, it's not going to be 12 o'clock, it's not going to be whatever. I know within 2 hours.
There's not a load of breaks in between.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing soccer has going for it.
No, I mean, like
bigger things other sports in the US.
He didn't because he grew up in the South, but I was a decent fan of the NHL because of the Flyers, which was it was the team outside of Philadelphia that I became fans of, and I went to a few games and everything else. But I was trying to watch the Flyers recently, and they have so many commercial breaks. It's like okay, when do I get to see the game? And that's, American football's that way, baseball's obviously that way. Listen, one thing, because of the way the real football is played, they got to get the commercials in before halftime and at the end of the game. The one thing I will say that I wish we did better with broadcasting is, one, I wish we had better announcers. Some of the announcers at the U.S. announcers at the World Cup, I wanted, if I had hair, I would have pulled it out.
So I'm so glad I was listening to German.
Yeah, so I mean, you had a much better, quality of that. But the other thing is, like, if you watch an American football game, they break down these games incessantly. They used to have Madden with this little telestrator and marking on it and everything else. Well, if you're going to build fans, there's still fans of the real football. They don't know what offside is. Or offsides, which is not correct. It's offside, but they don't know what that is. And at lot of other laws of the game in football that are much more complicated than offside, but they don't even know what that is. So it's like, it drives me nuts when they, they have, I know they have the technology. Okay, here's the, draw a line, you don't wait for the VAR, the video assisted referee. Draw a line. Here's what this is. Here's what they're looking for this. This is what it is. They had the I can't remember which game, the game in the World Cup was, I think it was Korea, with a ball. They never gave a great angle, but the ball didn't go all the way out. Well, explain what that means. Why does that matter? Because
Japan, Spain.
Yeah, so that you had that, in the real football, the whole ball has to go out to be out. So if the slightest sliver of the ball is still on, then it's still in, then the whole ball is considered in. Just like if you want to score a goal, you have to get the entire ball over the line, or it's not a goal. And that's where, you'll see it every once in a while on corner kicks, where the guy taking the corner kick will put the ball down because of the angle of the camera. All you see is green, and you'll see the assistant referee, if he's on that side, he'll come in and he'll look over it. And as long as when he looks down, he sees the white of the line, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it worked. Well, explain this. Again, I know that, no one knows this, all his teammates know this, and everything else. But if you're going to get the average fan, why don't we give it that? That's the only negative of, hey, we got to get all our commercials in at halftime. And again, some of it, you'll have, they'll put up they'll have the score of the game, and they'll slip some, sponsors up there. But, that's how, to me, start answering those questions during the broadcast. And maybe you don't have to do that, because if you do it excessively, no one might get upset, because it's like, I know what offside is, and I know what this rule is, and I know that. But if you want to get the average fan, maybe you pick a game, and Leeds might be a good example, because that's become the Premier League team that it has become much more popular in the U.S. because Jesse Marsh, who's an American, is the coach. You have Tyler Adams and Brandon Harrison, who are both Americans that are not only on the team but playing well and pretty much start every game. So maybe that's the game where you're getting less of the hardcore fan and more of the, hey, I'm starting to show some interest, where you start breaking down, hey, this is what offside means, and this is what this is, and he's taking a penalty kick, and this is what it is. Here's the 18-yard box, and what does that mean? Now, he's a goalie, he knows really well what that means. If I'm in the 18-yard box, I can touch the ball with my hands. If I come outside the 18-yard box, I can't. But the average fan may not, and start showing some of the differences with Leeds as a whole, for a team that's kind of where they are in the Premier League table, plays a pretty aggressive style, pretty much no matter who they play. Manchester City, who's at the top, and Arsenal, who's at the top, play a pretty aggressive style all the time because they have the ability and talent to do that. But a lot of times when you see the lower level teams, they'll play a more conservative style. Hey, maybe we can just try to win by we'll get a goal accidentally somehow, type of thing. And Leeds, I will say, their coach, he plays a pretty aggressive. Eddie Howe did that with Bournemouth. Where they had the smallest stadium in the Premier League by far. I think it was just barely big enough to even be allowed to be in the Premier League. Little to no resources. Kept them up for, was it 3 years or was it longer than that?
3 years.
So, but yet pretty consistently played against everybody in a fairly aggressive, hey, we're going to go after these games style. But that's what I say, you start taking opportunities to not overly explain, but at least do something with, hey, we're waiting for the VAR line. Well, what are we waiting to find out? What is it that we're waiting for video review, or what is it that they're looking at? And again, I think that's where you start looking at these telestrator type things, where you can write on the camera and go, oh, this is what instead of taking the 3 minutes and wasting it, this is a teachable moment. He was homeschooled. My wife was a former teacher, and I was a homeschool teacher. And how many times did you hear teachable moment?
A lot.
Growing up, a lot. Well, this is a teachable moment on these broadcasts of, hey, this is what they're looking at. This is the law of the game that they're trying to pinpoint of what happened. And what's the difference between when there is a foul, what do they look, when they go to look at, the other thing they look at for video review is red card. Well, when they do that, what are they looking for? Was it no card, yellow card, red card? What is the things that make it different? What are the, hey, excessive force is usually one of the big ones from a red card. Was it, someone goes in for a tackle with the real football is, hey, I'm not trying to run the guy over because we're not technically allowed to do that. I'm trying to get the ball off of this player's foot. Did they do it in a way that was excessive force? It was more force than is necessary to perform, to do that. Did they come up with their spikes up? And for those who don't know, pretty much all the professional football players have metal spikes. So when they miss and they hit somebody in the shin or back of the leg or foot, that hurts. It's not just plastic, which is what typically he's playing with at the moment. These are metal spikes. It's it hits you, and that's what you'll see them bleeding and everything because they got hit with a metal spike. So that to me, I guess, is one of the bigger ones. Is I think your idea is great. Is find a team to root for. Absolutely, I think that's huge.
Find a player to root for, find the teams on something that you have an idea of what you want to do.
Yeah, and if you have a kid, I just saw somebody was posting this ECNL Girls Showcase that's going on Grant Hill. You may not know who that is, but that was a really good NBA player, college player. Well, his kids are playing in one of these showcases right now. His daughter is, and it was almost more, hey, Grant Hill's on the sideline because of this. Well, if you have a kid playing, don't be that parent. And there was a parent on one of his teams that almost took pride in the fact she knew nothing. I know nothing about the laws, so I don't argue with anybody because I don't know what's going on. Well, I appreciate the not arguing. I think that's great. I think